I stared at the elegantly decorated entrance of the Grand Palace restaurant, double-checking the invitation in my hand. The date, time, and location all matched perfectly. Today was supposed to be my sister Jenna's wedding day, and I had flown all the way from Florida to be here. "Excuse me," I said, approaching the hostess at the entrance, "I'm here for the Wilson Parker wedding." The woman frowned, checking her tablet. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but there's no Wilson Parker wedding scheduled today. We have the Thompson Richards wedding in progress." "That can't be right." I pulled out the invitation and showed it to her. "See, June 15th, 2 p.m., the Grand Palace, Jenna Wilson and Mark Parker." She examined the invitation and shook her head. "I'm sorry, but there must be some mistake. We don't have that event booked today." A young woman in a server's uniform who was passing by glanced at me. "Maybe someone's playing a joke on you," she said with a slight smirk before walking away. My face burned with embarrassment. I stepped aside, pulling out my phone to call Jenna. No answer. I tried my parents, nothing. My brother Alex, straight to voicemail. After an hour of repeated attempts, I was starting to panic. Finally, I remembered Rachel, Jenna's best friend who was supposed to be a bridesmaid. She picked up on the third ring. "Hello? Rachel, it's Amber, Jenna's sister. I'm at the Grand Palace, but there's no wedding here. Do you know what's going on?" There was a pause. "No, it's at the Lakeside Manor. Look, I've got to go, the ceremony's about to start." Before she could hang up, I quickly asked, "Can you give me the address?" After getting the address, I immediately hailed a taxi. During the 15-minute ride, I kept calling my family, but still got nothing. When we pulled up to the Lakeside Manor, my stomach was in knots. At the entrance, 2 security guards stood checking names on tablets. "Name, please?" one asked as I approached. "Amber Wilson, I'm the bride's sister." He scrolled through his list, then frowned. "I'm sorry, Ms. Wilson, but you're not on the guest list." He paused, checking another screen. "Actually, you're on the stop list. I can't let you in." As we argued, I caught a glimpse of Jenna in her wedding dress, walking with our mother through a corridor visible from the entrance. When Jenna noticed me, she didn't look surprised or confused. Instead, she smiled and waved her bouquet at me mockingly. In that moment, everything clicked. This wasn't a mistake, it was deliberate. I turned and walked away, fighting back tears as I called another taxi. On the ride to my hotel, memories flooded back, memories I'd tried to suppress for years. From childhood, Jenna and Alex had always been my parents' favorites. Jenna was the pretty, sociable daughter they showed off at parties. Alex was the son they'd always wanted. And I was just there, the quiet one, the responsible one, the one they could ignore. After college, I didn't go back home. I moved to Florida, built a career in financial consulting, and met David. We got married after 2 years together, bought a beautiful house on the coast, and decided we didn't want children. We wanted freedom, travel, and each other. When David died 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack, he left everything to me, his investments, properties, and life insurance. I was wealthy but alone. Maybe that's why I started reaching out to my family again. I thought money could build the bridge that love never had. I paid my parents' household bills when they struggled. I covered Alex's college tuition when he kept changing majors. And when Jenna got engaged, I offered to help with her wedding. "We need $80,000, Jenna had said during a video call, as if requesting lunch money. "That's excessive," I'd replied. "I can give you $25,000, but that should be plenty for a beautiful wedding." Her face had hardened. "You could give me a lot more, Amber. You have all that money just sitting there. You don't have a husband anymore, you don't have kids, who are you saving it for?" "It's my money, Jenna, I'll spend it how I want." She'd taken the $25,000 anyway, and apparently, she'd also decided I didn't deserve to be at her wedding. As the taxi pulled up to my hotel, I made a decision. If my family wanted to play games, I could play too, and I had a feeling I would win. I marched into my room, opened my laptop, and logged into my bank account, specifically, the joint account I'd set up for family emergencies. I'd never monitored it closely, trusting them to use it responsibly. That had been a mistake. The transaction history told the whole story. Over $100,000 gone in the past 3 years. The most recent charge, $15,000 for a honeymoon package to the Maldives, booked just yesterday. With a few clicks, I canceled the honeymoon reservation. There was a small cancellation fee, but I didn't care. Next, I noticed the automated mortgage payment for my parents' house, $2,300 monthly for the past 5 years. Cancelled. Then there were Alex's charges, hundreds of dollars monthly for online gaming subscriptions, in-game purchases, and gaming equipment. All for the fancy gaming PC I bought him last year for his birthday. I blocked their access to the account, then closed my laptop. It was nearly midnight, but I wasn't tired. Instead, I felt lighter than I had in years. I called some old college friends who lived nearby, and we met at a bar downtown. By the time I returned to my hotel room, I felt at peace. I turned off my phone and slept better than I had in years. Morning came with the relentless buzzing of my phone. I'd turned it back on to check emails and was immediately bombarded with notifications. 15 missed calls from Mom, 7 from Dad, 23 from Jenna, 12 from Alex. Plus dozens of text messages. I scrolled through them with a strange detachment, not feeling the slightest urge to respond. Let them wait, let them worry, for once, they could feel what it was like to be ignored. Instead, I ordered room service and enjoyed a leisurely breakfast. After my second cup of coffee, curiosity got the better of me. Why hadn't any of them mentioned my absence from the wedding? What excuse had they given to everyone else? I scrolled through my contacts and called my Aunt Sarah, Dad's sister. We'd always gotten along well, and she'd never participated in the family's obvious favoritism. "Amber, honey, how are you?" Her voice was cautious, oddly strained. "I'm fine, Aunt Sarah. How was the wedding yesterday?" "It was nice, very elegant, the venue was beautiful." "I'm sure it was." I paused. Did anyone mention why I wasn't there? The silence stretched for several seconds. "Well, your parents did explain. They said you've been going through some difficult times. Something about treatment for alcohol issues? And some mental health concerns?" My coffee cup froze halfway to my mouth. "They said what?" "They mentioned you'd been struggling since David died. That the money made things worse. That you're in some kind of wellness retreat for a couple weeks." She hesitated. "Amber, if you need someone to talk to." "I'm not in rehab," I said flatly. "I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not having mental health issues. I flew here specifically for Jenna's wedding, but they sent me a fake invitation to the wrong venue. When I finally figured out where the real wedding was, security wouldn't let me in because I was on some stop list." "Oh my God," Aunt Sarah whispered, "that's horrible. Why would they do that?" "Because Jenna was mad I only gave her $25,000 for the wedding instead of $80,000. My phone beeped with an incoming call. "Mom again, I need to go." "Aunt Sarah, thanks for being honest with me." I switched to Mom's call, my blood boiling. "Hello, Mother." "Amber, what's going on?" "The bank says our mortgage payment was rejected. They're saying the account is closed." "Well, that's exactly what an alcoholic with mental problems would do, isn't it?" I replied coldly. "What are you talking about?" "I know what you told everyone at the wedding. That I'm in rehab, that I'm crazy, that I've been struggling since David died." "Amber, you've misunderstood." "No, I understand perfectly. I understand the fake wedding invitation. I understand why security wouldn't let me in. I understand why Jenna waved her bouquet at me like it was some kind of victory flag." Mom sighed dramatically. "You need to understand your sister. She was upset that you wouldn't help more with the wedding. She felt you weren't being supportive enough. The invitation thing was just a joke." "A joke?" I laughed bitterly. "You know what's funny? It's my time to make jokes, Mom, and I've decided I'm done being the family ATM. You can't do this to us. We need that money, Amber, please." I hung up. My phone immediately rang again, Jenna this time. "You bastard," she screamed without preamble, "you canceled our honeymoon. Mark's parents already gave us a card congratulating us on the trip. What am I supposed to tell them?" Tell them whatever you want, tell them I'm a crazy alcoholic who can't be trusted. That seems to be your go-to story. I paid for that trip. No, I paid for it, with my money, from my account. Which you no longer have access to. You're so damn greedy, you've ruined everything, how are we supposed to? Not my problem anymore, good luck on your marriage, Jenna. Maybe try starting it without lies. I hung up again, and almost immediately Alex called. What the hell, Amber, he shouted, my guild has a major tournament tonight. I need to pay the entry fee. You're going to make me lose my captain position. When you get a job and earn your own money, you can pay for your games, I replied calmly. I'm not sponsoring your hobby anymore, Alex. You can't just cut us off like this. Actually, I can, and I have. Maybe Dad can buy you a new gaming PC with his own money this time. After hanging up on Alex, I blocked all their numbers. The relief was immediate and powerful. I checked out of the hotel and headed to the airport, ready to go back to my real home. The flight back to Florida gave me time to think. I'd spent years trying to buy my family's love, and all it had gotten me was exploitation and humiliation. I'd been lonely after David died, but was this really better? Letting them drain my bank account while they mocked me behind my back. As the plane descended toward the blue waters of the Florida coast, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time: freedom. From guilt. From obligation. From the desperate need to be loved by people who would never truly care about me. My house welcomed me with its familiar silence, a silence that now felt peaceful rather than empty. I walked through the rooms, touching the furniture, looking at the photos of David and me, remembering the life we'd built together. A good life. A loving life. For a week, I enjoyed the peaceful quiet of my beachfront home. I threw myself back into work, reconnected with local friends, and started swimming in the ocean every morning. The weight of family obligation had lifted from my shoulders, and I felt lighter than I had in years. Then, on a sunny Saturday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I approached cautiously and checked through the peephole. My heart dropped. Jenna stood there in oversized sunglasses with a tall man I assumed was Mark, her new husband. They had several suitcases with them. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. Surprise, Jenna exclaimed with a fake cheeriness that didn't reach her eyes. We've come for our honeymoon after all. I stared at them. What are you talking about? Well, since you ruined our Maldives trip, we figured we'd just stay here instead. She gestured broadly. Florida, beachfront property, it'll do in a pinch. Mark looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to another, but said nothing. You can't be serious, I said. Dead serious, Jenna pushed past me into the foyer, dragging a suitcase behind her. This place is big enough for all of us. And it'll save us hotel costs. I blocked Mark from following her. You need to leave, now. Jenna whirled around. Don't be so selfish, Amber, it's my honeymoon. You owe me this after what you did. I owe you nothing, I kept my voice steady. You sent me a fake invitation, humiliated me, and told everyone I was a mentally unstable alcoholic. And now you expect to stay in my house? You'll feel bad about this later, Jenna threatened. When you calm down and stop being so dramatic. I'm not being dramatic, I'm setting boundaries. Something I should have done years ago. Now get out. We're not leaving, Jenna declared, crossing her arms. I pulled out my phone. Then I'm calling the police and reporting trespassers. Finally, Mark spoke up. Jenna, maybe we should go. Shut up, she snapped at him before turning back to me. Fine, we'll go, but don't think this is over. They dragged their suitcases back outside, and I locked the door behind them, my hands shaking slightly. Through the window, I watched them argue in the driveway before loading their bags into a rental car and driving away. I thought that was the end of it, but around 9 p.m., I heard music blasting from outside. I looked out my window to see a tent set up on the edge of my property. Jenna and Mark were sitting in folding chairs, a portable speaker between them cranked to maximum volume. As I watched, Mark set off a firework that exploded directly over my house. They were really going to do this. Camp out on my property like petulant children throwing a tantrum. I tried ignoring them at first, hoping they'd get tired and leave. But as midnight approached, the music only got louder, and the fireworks more frequent. My neighbors would start complaining soon, if they hadn't already. "This is ridiculous," I muttered to myself, grabbing my phone. I called the police, explained the situation calmly, and waited inside. 20 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up. From my window, I watched 4 officers approach Jenna and Mark's makeshift campsite. Even from here, I could see Jenna gesticulating wildly, probably feeding them some story about how this was her property or how I was the crazy one. Whatever she said, it didn't work. The officers made them pack up their things and escorted them to the police cars. I felt a pang of something, not quite regret, but perhaps sadness that it had come to this. How had we become so estranged that my own sister was being arrested for trespassing on my property? I didn't sleep well that night. Not because I felt guilty, but because I kept replaying the years of manipulation, the fake wedding invitation, the lies about my mental health. With every recollection, my resolve strengthened. This was necessary. This was long overdue. The following morning, I was making coffee when my phone rang. An unfamiliar number with the local area code. "Hello? Ms. Wilson, this is Officer Ramirez from the Palm Beach Police Department. I'm calling about the incident at your property last night. I wanted to let you know that your sister and her husband spent the night here at the station. They've paid a fine for trespassing and have been released, but they're under strict orders not to return to your property. If they violate this order, it will result in immediate arrest and more serious charges." "I understand, thank you for letting me know." After hanging up, I walked out onto my deck and stared at the ocean. The morning was beautiful, clear blue sky, gentle waves, a slight breeze carrying the scent of salt water. This was my sanctuary, my home, and I'd protected it. I wondered where Jenna and Mark had gone after being released. Had they checked into a hotel? Were they heading back home with their tails between their legs? Or were they plotting some new way to get back at me? For a brief moment, the old guilt tried to creep in. The voice that had been programmed into me since childhood whispered, "You should call and check on them, their family, they need you." But then I remembered standing outside that restaurant with my useless invitation. I remembered the security guard telling me I was on the stop list. I remembered Jenna waving her bouquet at me mockingly. No, I was done being manipulated. Done being used, done feeling responsible for people who had never taken responsibility for themselves. I didn't know what would happen next. Would my parents lose their house without my mortgage payments? Would Alex have to get a real job now that his gaming lifestyle wasn't being funded? Would Jenna's marriage survive the honeymoon fiasco? These weren't my problems anymore. They had made their choices, and now they had to live with them. Just as I had made mine. A few days later, my phone rang. It was Aunt Sarah. "Aunt Sarah. It's good to hear from you." And surprisingly, I meant it. My father's sister had always been kind to me, never participating in the family's obvious favoritism. Her voice was firm. "I had a long talk with your mother yesterday. I forced her to admit it to everyone. That they lied about you having drinking and mental health problems. That they deliberately excluded you from the wedding because you wouldn't give Jenna more money. She's been calling relatives to correct the story." A weight I hadn't realized I was carrying lifted slightly. "Thank you for that. You don't need to thank me. It was the right thing to do." She paused. "There's more you should know. Your parents are having serious financial problems without your help. The mortgage company has sent warnings. Your father's talking about getting a second job." She paused again. "And your brother Alex is causing problems. They sold his computer to help with bills, and now he's furious. Refuses to look for work, just mopes around complaining about how unfair everything is. And Jenna? Back home with Mark, she's miserable. Keeps fighting with him about money. Says she's not used to living in poverty and blames him for not earning enough." I pictured Mark's uncomfortable expression at my doorstep and felt a twinge of sympathy for him. He clearly hadn't known what he was getting into with my sister. "I'd like to see you, Amber," Aunt Sarah said suddenly. "Would that be okay? I've never been to Florida." The request surprised me, but in a good way. "I'd like that too, you're welcome anytime." After we hung up, I realized I was smiling. Maybe I hadn't lost my entire family after all. The weeks passed quickly. I found myself looking forward to Aunt Sarah's visit, even preparing the guest room with fresh flowers and new linens. It had been a long time since I'd had family visit, family who actually wanted to see me, not what I could give them. When her flight arrived, I met her at the airport with a handmade sign, "Welcome to Florida, Aunt Sarah." Like a proper tourist, she wore a flowery shirt and oversized sunglasses, and we both laughed at the cliché. "Your house is gorgeous," she said as I gave her the tour. The evening sun was setting over the ocean, visible through the large windows that lined the back of my home. "David and I bought it just after we got married, we loved it here." She touched my arm gently. "He sounds like he was a wonderful man." He was, I smiled, the pain of loss now a dull ache rather than the sharp stab it had once been. We had a good life together. Over the next few days, I showed her around town. We visited the beach, ate at my favorite restaurants, and spent evenings on the deck watching the sunset with glasses of wine. It was the most relaxed I'd felt around family in years. On her third night, after dinner, she brought up the situation back home. "It's getting worse," she said. "Your mother and father fight constantly about money. Your father blames her for spending too much, and she blames him for not earning enough. That's not my problem anymore." "I know, I'm not saying it is." She took a sip of wine. "Alex got kicked out last week. Your father finally had enough of him gaming all day. He's crashing on friends' couches now. He's 24. It's time he stood on his own feet." "And Jenna," Aunt Sarah shook her head. "Mark's parents are furious about the honeymoon fiasco. Apparently, Jenna told them you had promised to pay for everything as a wedding gift. Mark's starting to see through her, I think. Your father told me they're already talking about separation." I stared out at the ocean, watching the moonlight glitter on the waves. "Do you think I'm wrong, Aunt Sarah? For cutting them off?" She considered this, swirling her wine thoughtfully. "No, I think you gave and gave for years, and they just took. They never appreciated you, they never even tried to understand you." "I keep waiting to feel guilty," I admitted. "But I don't, I just feel free." "You should feel free. You're not responsible for supporting grown adults who can work and provide for themselves. Your money is yours, Amber, you earned it. You and David built that life together." The next morning, we walked along the beach as the sun rose, painting the sky in brilliant pinks and oranges. The tide had washed up hundreds of shells overnight, and Aunt Sarah delighted in collecting the most beautiful ones. "I've been thinking," I said as we walked. "Maybe I've been looking for connection in the wrong places. Maybe family isn't just about blood. Some people are family because of DNA," Aunt Sarah agreed. "Others become family because they actually care about you." "I think I'm done being anyone's ATM," I said firmly. "But I'm not done with family altogether." She smiled and linked her arm through mine. "Good, because you're stuck with me, at least." After Aunt Sarah left, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I called my financial advisor and set up a new plan, one that didn't involve supporting my parents, sister, or brother. Instead, I established a small scholarship fund at my old university for women pursuing careers in finance. I also increased my contributions to several charities that David and I had supported together. My phone still rang occasionally with unknown numbers that I suspected were my family trying to reach me from different phones. I didn't answer them. Let them figure out their own lives, just as I had figured out mine. One evening, about 2 months after Aunt Sarah's visit, I received an email from Mark, Jenna's husband. The subject line read simply, "Thank you." Curious, I opened it. "Amber," it began, "you don't know me well, but I wanted to thank you. When you cut Jenna off, I finally saw who she really was. We're getting divorced." I'm sorry for what my soon-to-be ex-wife and her family did to you. You deserved better. Best wishes, Mark. I stared at the screen, surprised but not shocked. Jenna had always valued money over people. Without mine, she'd shown her true colors to Mark, just as she had to me. That night, I sat on my deck watching the stars reflect off the ocean. In my hand was a shell Aunt Sarah had found, a perfect spiral, unbroken despite the rough journey to shore. She'd given it to me before leaving, saying it reminded her of me, strong, beautiful, and whole despite everything. I ran my finger along its smooth surface and thought about family, the one I was born into and the one I was building now, comprised of people who valued me for who I was, not what I could give them. I placed the shell on the small table beside me and picked up my phone to call Aunt Sarah. We were planning her next visit, and I had ideas for places to take her.